Brought to you by DCP Player. Preview any DCP ad or trailer on any PC. For more information, go to dcpplayer.net. Brought to you by DCP Encoder, a cost-effective way for a cinema owner or content producer to go to the DCP file format. For more information, contact dcpencoder.net.
In the 80s, we came back with at least 15 titles over a number of years. But again, by the mid-80s through 2004, it had essentially gone away, except for just an occasional title here and there. And then now, 2005, starting until now, we've had a whole rebirth of 3D and over 50 titles. So the real question is what happens in the future? I don't really know, but I can tell you we're definitely on the track for a lot more screens now. Talking about how 3D works and what's important, the simple concept is of stereo. Two eyes, just like stereo sound, two ears. We have two separate images, and they're really should be identical in every respect, except for the perspective you have on the object you're viewing. This requires you to keep the two signals isolated from each other. In other words, you can't really crosstalk with each other, and you can't get the left eye blending in with the right eye, and the right eye blending in with the left eye, and therefore you have to have the glasses or the shutters or whatever to do this. The other thing is that the two eye images need to be symmetrical, in the sense that if there's something going on with one eye, you need to have the same thing going on with the other eye. Because if they're asymmetrical, you end up inducing artifacts that will affect the 3D process. Then, going back to the 1950s, most of the systems were two-projector systems, and two projectors just inherently were unstable in terms of synchronization and brightness. So you had problems with splices and film getting threaded out of sync. So in fact, the 3D worked, but it was basically a disaster from every other respect. Plenty of brightness. Now, in the 60s, things got a good bit better. We went to single-strip 3D systems where the left eye and the right eye were on the same piece of film, which eliminated quite a few of the problems because the synchronization between the iframes couldn't get very far off. Either they were in or out. So it did get slightly better. And now, of course, we've got digital systems and film systems coming, which have much better techniques and technologies than anything that came previously. So we've got a whole new generation of 3D equipment, which is leading to a much better experience than we ever had before. 3D today, I break it into three digital systems into three groups. There's the system using polarized glasses. There's systems using color separation glasses. These are primarily the Dolby technique. And active glasses. So in the case of polarized glasses, you've got fairly expensive equipment and cheap glasses that end up to a certain business economy. In the case of the color separation techniques, you've got less expensive equipment with more expensive glasses. And when it comes down to the active glasses, you've got fairly inexpensive booth equipment, but fairly expensive glasses. So they all add up differently depending on each individual exhibitor's situation. And so there's, I think, valid business arguments that can be made for either one of or any of these systems, depending on that particular customer's requirements. And that's where it's really on the exhibitor and the customer to understand their own requirements and what they need, and then map the system that works for them best into that. It's not like maybe 10 years ago when we had multiple soundtrack formats and we had different distributors supporting different formats, and supporting multiple formats was a burden for the film industry. In this case, they're all coming off one master, digital master, so it's quite easy for the industries to support all these systems. So in this case with 3D, it truly is an individual choice up to the exhibitor which of these systems is going to work for them best. Now, today, in 2000, we never can. We've got film coming back, and we've got two more choices to make. We've got the Technicolor system, which you're going to hear a good bit more about later, which is an over-under film-based system using a split lens. And we've got the Oculus system that's actually in demos now, which is using a side-by-side subframe layout. You're going to hear more about this later. So this has added a very interesting dynamic to the whole 3D process of how this works. Now the good news on the film side is, of course, these are really low cost. You can get into the film systems for not a lot of money, and they're compatible with the current generation of polarized, circular polarized glasses as used by RealD. You're already halfway there if you're buying a silver screen and you buy a film-based system in terms of ultimately getting into digital. So some of your investment is recouped there if in fact you go to digital later. The bad news, of course, with the film-based system is that it's film. And film wears out. Its film's got problems. So you brought back a lot of the old issues with film technology. So it's going to be up to the vendors and the exhibitors that implement these systems to really ensure that they've got good maintenance on those systems and the prints are relatively in great shape and that you aren't really inducing problems as you go here. Let me back up. The other bad news, of course, with Film 3D is that it's you're captive into what's being released on film. So you're ruled out of doing some of the streaming media or sports and things like that that may be coming across the satellite feed. So those are the issues you really have to consider carefully when you start to choose which one of these systems. I did a little chart to show you what we've got now. In digital, we've got essentially 5 different vendors supporting a digital system. 3 of them supporting circular polarization, RealD, MasterImage, Sony, and of course Dolby's the Trifilter, and Expand is supporting the active glasses. All of them work really well. All of them are installed. I don't have the numbers right now, how many. RealD's obviously a significant leader in this, but as I said earlier, there's a valid business case for each of these. So you're not going to hear anyone come out and say this one doesn't work or this one's clearly better. I think it really is up to the exhibitor to choose which one's going to work best for their particular situation. When it comes to 35 millimeter now, we've got 2 choices. We've got an over-under system, circular polarization from Technicolor, and we've got a side-by-side system, a linear polarization from Oculus. And these are being demoed now. So it comes down to the fact that there's a lot of choices out there, and there's really a choice for everyone. But it's going to be up to you to decide which one works best for your particular case. Regardless, getting back to your original question, is 3D going to last now, or is it going to be a gimmick? And of course, my feeling is it's here to stay. I don't know that it's going to continue to make 4x box office on screens. But in fact, it's going to continue to be part of the motion picture going experience from now on. Certainly with a certain percentage of the films. Possibly not all, and however it ends up is anybody's guess. But the key thing is we've got to make it look good. Anybody can do 3D. It's hard to do 3D well so that people can sit through full-length motion pictures and watch movies and enjoy the movie without being aware that they're watching 3D or having to fiddle with glasses or ending up with an inadvertent headache at the end. So that's where the maintenance issue comes in. Now doing 3D well really comes down to reducing your eye fatigue and making it comfortable to keep going. One of the things that's helped significantly over the 50s is, in fact, the creative use of 3D now is significantly better than what was done in the 60s and the 50s. And you can see with Avatar, very good use of 3D. You know, it wasn't in your face the whole time. It was quite subtle, it worked very well. And when it's in your face all the time, your eyes are going back and forth trying to focus between the screen and up close and back and forth. When it's used as a gimmick creatively, it does lead to a bad experience in the long run. It may work well in a 2-minute demo, but not in a 2-hour show. So creative use really is a lot of answer of whether you can enjoy a full-length feature. In the theaters, it really comes down to you choosing the right system for your particular auditorium, screen size, and keeping it well maintained. And you're going to hear a good bit more about that in the course of this presentation. You've got some decisions to make, these exhibitors, when it comes down to which equipment to buy. Screens are part of that, glasses are part of that, but ultimately you have to add all this up to decide which way you're going to go with 3D. But I'm convinced you need to do it. And with the multiple systems out there now, there's really no excuse not to put 3D in on some level. So, with that, I think, you know, the window of opportunity is here now. It may, I don't know how long it will last. It could be 2 years, it could be 3 years. 3D in the home is coming very soon. So the exhibitors really do have a unique opportunity this year and maybe into the next year to get out with really good 3D on the screen to attract those audiences out. So with that, I'd like to say thank you and turn it over to Andrew, who's going to give you a bit more detail about screens and where we go from there.